Tuesday, December 16th at 1 p.m. And we'll convene our municipal council meeting. We'll begin with a roll call, starting with Councillor Bogdan.
Becky Bogdan. Catrice McKay.
George Hanley.
Gary Garrett.
Rachel Whipple.
And Craig Christensen.
We expect Councillor Hoban will join us shortly. We also welcome Scott Henderson, our city CAO. Thank you for being here. It's proposed that we approve the minutes from the December 2nd work meeting. Are there any requested changes or objections to these minutes? If not, I declare the minutes approved by unanimous consent. If there's no objection, we will recess the municipal council and reconvene as the RDA governing board by unanimous consent and turn the time to our board chair, Rachel Whipple.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our first item is a presentation regarding a project area plan and budget for the Lakeview Parkway CRA. This will be presented by Melissa McNally, the RDA director. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this presentation is going to be kind of in two parts. We'll talk about the CRA plan and budget first, and then we will talk about
I got you.
thank you. Then we'll talk about more specifics of the cost benefit analysis of the Walmart development on one of the parcels. All right. So the project area came about as we wanted to meet some economic development goals for the area, specifically along Lakeview Parkway, to complement development happening in the area for the Epic Sports Park, for the airport expansion, and for the anticipated population growth in the area. The goals of this plan are also supporting the plans, our goals within the general plan and within the Southwest area plan. So I believe these goals are pulled specifically from those plans to help support the economic development, to encourage undeveloped and underdeveloped areas within the project area, and to provide diverse commercial opportunities and employment opportunities within the area. The zoning, it's not anticipated that we'll have to change any of the zoning for the commercial pads. They're already zoned FC3 and SC2. It aligns with the general plan for the infill development, and as well as the Southwest area plan.
Melissa?
Yes.
So one thing that was confusing to me as I was reading the part is exactly what's coming on this slide, because it seems that we've got two different areas with essentially different plans for each of those areas. Or are they all considered one? Because it got confusing as to what's going to happen in which one, and
right. And I apologize for the confusion. I can go back through the plan and try and clarify where. So it's all under one area plan, and there are different parcels. So because there are different incentives, and right now, well, I say incentives, there's only one incentive being considered for the plan right now. There's development anticipated on these specific parcels, and there's other acreage included within the project area plan, with the intent to provide opportunities for those landowners should they decide to cease the operations that are happening on those parcels and develop them later. They are, and that's not these parcels, those are parcels that are agricultural right now. So it's anticipated that they are going to support airport development sometime in the future. That's the way that they're not zoned, but there's an overlay for airport support for those parcels that are considered. So to make a long story long, it's all one plan, but there are like different considerations for the different areas. Did that clarify or did that just confuse you more?
Okay, so we have one plan and we have like subsections of the plan. So
Correct.
like subsection W is the Walmart area and it's got specific
Right.
incentives, anticipated development. And then this other one, I don't
This,
know,
yeah.
A for airport or P for park, whatever it is.
Yeah. So
We want different things there, but this plan would cover both of those different.
right, and we're
areas.
including the parcels in the plan now, the ones that we're not anticipating immediate development on, the other parcels. But we want to include them in the plan in the event that during the life of this CRA, those landowners decide to do something different. They'll be within the CRA already, and we won't have to try and adopt them into the area. They'll already be there. So it would be an amendment to the budget to include incentives in some future event, but which is a lot easier to do, to incorporate that in the budget rather than add them to the area later.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So on that same vein, but the incentive is exactly the same for the entire area.
It is not. It is not. The incentive is specific to developers that come in and want to do different things. And if the city decides that that's something that we want to incentivize, then we can offer it because it is in the project area.
But do we have all those incentives listed? I thought it was just a tax increment incentive.
We can cover that. I'll cover that more when we're talking about the budget. Our intent with this plan, and it does outline in the plan that we do not anticipate having a property tax increment incentive in this area. It could happen later, but that is not the intent of creating the CRA at this time.
And Melissa, could you remind us of the life or term of this CRA?
It's anticipated to be 20 years.
20 years, okay.
Yeah.
And is that 20 years from when we adopt it or 20 years from when a developer comes in and says, let's do it?
20 years from when we adopt it. The incentive could be longer, depending on what we are doing with the developer.
Okay.
So this is anticipated to be, or this is the Walmart area. This area over here is just south of the Epic Sports Park. So it's anticipated that there will be hospitality and restaurant options there. And there could be an incentive offered on that parcel at some point in the future.
So for that parcel, we put out requests for proposals.
Yes.
For development there. Has that closed?
It has.
Okay. Is there an indication that the respondents would be seeking tax increment funding or other things in order to do the project?
There is, but that's something that we're working through, the logistics and legality of everything because it's being handled in a different way. So we can discuss that later, but when things are more finalized, but we're working through that. To make a long story long, we're working through that. An incentive could be possible. We're not sure.
But was that part of the response to the request for proposals? Like, we will do this thing and we anticipate in order to do this thing, we will ask for these incentives.
No, I
Okay.
don't believe so. Cody, do you? No. Okay.
All right, thank you.
No.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Please
No, you're
go on.
fine. Questions are great and welcome. Is that it?
Yes,
For now.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
we'll stop you again.
Okay, great, please do. Okay. So through this area plan, it's the current property value. The base value is the 29,796,900, and it's anticipated that then in 20 years, the value of the same area is going to increase to 158,827,000 and $12.
And is that for both of the two different little areas, or is that only for one of the areas?
So that's just for the two different, the increase is based on the two areas because we don't anticipate right now any incentives on the current agricultural lands. And so we didn't want to include that in this number, but it is included in the base number. So
Oh, you just lost me there. So the current base number is not just the two things that were highlighted on the
Yeah.
previous slide?
the base number is for all of the parcels within the area. The anticipated growth in 20 years, Cody, I'm not wrong, right? This is just for
Those two.
the parcels by the freeway and the Epic Sports Park parcel. Based on the
Okay.
development that's anticipated, the commercial development of those two areas.
Okay, so if there's other development throughout other things in the study area, that is not captured in that 158 million number.
Correct.
Okay,
And we would have been to budget at that point, which is, sorry. Yeah, so just to make this
Thank you.
budget, Cody Hill, Economic Development Division Director, just to make the budget more conservative and in line with what we know is happening and anticipate what is happening. We've only included projections for the Walmart development, the immediate south, and then the Epic Sports Park. And then any development that happens, we can amend the budget and say, oh, a developer has come, a farmer wants to sell, there's something happening here, and we can amend the budget at that point, but it is not included in the budget at this point.
okay, thank you. All right,
Okay, so currently there's no sales tax generated in the area. There's no commercial there. And based on the increment provided, this is sales tax increment. And Catrice, I think this is where this might be the part that was confusing. So it's not property tax increment. This is just the amount that will be generated from sales tax for the city is anticipated to be 1.2 million per year.
And that's us getting all of it?
I believe so, Cody. Yes, is that us getting all of it or just the portion for the city less the incentive?
Yes, well, 1.2 million is the totality of that is being generated. So it's all of it. That does not consider the incentive.
So there is a tax incentive.
There is a tax incentive. It's not property tax, it's sales tax.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll be presenting on that after.
okay, Becky,
So is this, when you say the totality, so this is the Walmart piece, the piece to the south by the freeway, and that little pie-shaped piece down on the bottom of the sports park?
I believe so, yeah, just to verify.
okay,
Because the 29,800,000 is anticipated value. That's the
Correct.
property value. That's the current property value.
That's the property value. Yes,
And
this
in
is
20
just,
years, though,
this is just sales tax.
that's
Yes.
just sales. And those are those three parcels.
Yes.
Okay, so, okay. And that 29 is the three parcels or even the Hinkley parcels and the BYU
No.
parcel?
The 29,
is
And
everything in the
it's-
whole thing?
it's the whole, so the parcels that we're considering to be the project area. Aside from this is different from the survey area. And that's included in the, if you want to see the official map online, there's a little happy QR code, but it's just those parcels next to the freeway, the Epic Sports Park, and then there's the
All the
parcels.
Hinkley and BYU.
Yes,
It's
yes,
only Hinkley and BYU.
yes, that's correct. Okay, and then before we get to questions, I know that there were some things that you wanted me to check with. I did reach out to the Agricultural Commission, which was for some reason not easy to find, but I reached out to Sean Miller, and he forwarded my questions and comments to Angela Merrick regarding the farming in the area. And his concern was that the farmland is just going to be picked up by developers till there's nothing left. which I understand that is a concern for many people in the area. And I did, and I'm sure that they're more aware than I am of these things and these tools that are in place. But there is an agricultural protection area through the state of Utah that the landowners can go and do an application with. They would need to do it through the county. So I did direct him there. And I did reach out to Mr. Hinckley as a courtesy to let him know that the project area in no way affects him or what he can do with his property adversely. It just offers options if he makes a different or chooses to do something different with this property in the future. It doesn't give us any rights to his property or change the zoning or anything like that. So yes, Mr. Christensen.
So when you say you let him know, are you referring, you told Sean Miller about
No, I'm
that?
sorry, John Hinckley, Mr.
Oh.
Hinckley.
He's
Yeah.
property owner.
Yeah. Yes.
I appreciate that completely, because he's my number one worry. I don't want him to feel pushed out, because he does want to farm, and we
Mhm.
acknowledge that. And he wants to farm forever. And if we're gonna change the conversation to, let's enable these guys to farm, this does not send that message. What was his response?
He hasn't responded. I let him know that he could call me or email me or anything with any comments or questions or concerns about anything. I just really wanted to reassure him that, again, it gives us no rights to his property. It doesn't change what he can do now or in the future. Just if he and his heirs decide that they don't want to do this anymore, it does offer more options with their land. If they decide to sell it to a developer, it is more appealing to a developer. If they want to hold on to it forever, that's their prerogative.
So it wasn't a phone call, it was more of an email?
Yeah, I felt like it would be more, it would be better to explain it that way.
I would prefer to get his feelings on it, because I don't wanna send any conflicting messages to him that we're. This is so tender. Their feelings are so raw, and it's not just Hinckley, it's also his sister. This is the second time she lost her home on this same parcel of land, right? And we burned it in a firefighting activity, which was very, very horrifying for her to have to see. And to me, their feelings matter. This is their land. This has been their land for, it was their father's land. It was their grandfather's land. These people are tied to this land, and this is something that they want. And so I'm afraid that they're gonna see this as an aggressive move from the city and not valuing their land and their wants and their needs for their land. I would much rather not put their parcels in there and go through the extra work in 20 years to put them in. Because I think now's the time that we need to change this, and we need to be different in our approach to this. And if they want to farm, let them farm. And let's.
Which parcels, Becky? Are you talking about all three of those parcels?
Hinckley's on, what is it?
If we
3
go
or
to
4
the-
parcels to the north.
The draft document, the exhibit A. We can pull that up, Kevin.
There's one that's Hinckley Properties that the Lambs lived on. It's to the south there.
South of the Parkway?
No, these are all north of the Parkway. These are all. So it would be. It's these parcels here. This one is owned by BYU, and these are owned by Hinckley Farms.
So it's those, Becky,
Yeah.
that are in blue?
They're also the site of some of the most important archaeological digs in our city.
They are.
The archaeology department at BYU regularly does digs on the Hinckley property. So yeah, it would be a tragic loss if that land ever went. I wonder if this is a problem of solved by having more coordinating conversations between the Agricultural Commission and the City Council, because they're talking to property owners, they're aware of certain areas, they're, along with Becky, they've been trying to like get to know individual property owners and figure out what the disposition is of different families in terms of their desires for keeping the land open. Because the conservation easement option becomes more appealing if there's more pressure, like the kind that this study area might create for some of those people. It just seems like we want to be
That's a
on the
great
same
idea.
page with the
Yeah.
commission and make sure, as Becky's saying, all of our communications with all of the landowners is very clear, so there's no anxiety.
And it may not change the designation, but at least they would know what their options are.
Right.
I was also in a really productive meeting with Gordon Haid and Shane Winters and one of the Ag Commission members and BYU professors who grow crops for research. George knows at least one of these guys. And Gordon was going to work on helping these other biology professors meet with Hinckley and you know, give other options, because he really likes to be able to talk about his land. He likes the students as a full captive audience and everything.
Mhm.
And so getting more in there and working with him was like really a happy thing for all of them. So there are other conversations that are going on for this land. So, well, do we have other questions or discussion? Yes.
I would just second that. Love the idea. We've got people who are doing great work on the Agricultural Commission. And I care a great deal about these farmers and what they're doing. And so robust conversation is such a good thing. Let's not do anything that drives a wedge in that or creates any misrepresentation at all. So love the idea.
Yes.
So it seems like the disconnect, if there is one, Melissa, we've reached out to Mr. Hinckley, but we haven't heard back. In
Yeah.
fact, we don't even know that he received, if it was an email, that he's read it or that he knows what our plans are.
Correct.
That would seem like it would be a good initial step to. It seems like we're on a good path, but we just need to make sure that he understands and doesn't misunderstand what we're trying to do here, right, Becky?
Well, I think it's more than just understand and misunderstand. It's the feeling, right? I mean, when I met with his sister, she was very angry and hurt. And Hinckley's been very angry and hurt for many years. And it's more of feeling pushed out, right? I mean, her words to me were, Becky, they've taken our land piece by piece over the years. And I rue the day that my father sold that airport to the city. And he did that out of his,
The airport land.
yeah, he did that out of his duty. He was mayor. This was the war. They needed a place to train fire pilots. And ever since then, they've taken their land piece by piece by piece, and they feel pushed out and they're angry, and they should. So it's more than just being clear with what we want to do with their land, because it is their land. I think it's respect for what they want to do with their land and try to help them with it without making our will or overstepping our boundaries. Even though technically we can do that, and we've done that for decades, I think we need to change that.
Did you have a read receipt on the email that you sent to Hinckley?
It wasn't an email, it was a physical copy. It was a physical mail copy.
Oh, okay. So all right. When did that go out?
A few weeks ago.
Okay. And did that have notice about this meeting that we would be discussing the plan?
It was a notice about the 13th that there would be a vote on the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have more to present?
If you have any questions, or because I know you had asked about wetlands and sensitive
Yes.
lands and things like that. And I just wanted to point out that there are goals defined in the river and lakeshore plan that talk about wetland mitigation. And we also have within our city code in chapter 15, our sensitive lands, it talks about the wetland protections and what can and cannot be developed upon. We could incorporate we could use tax increment to assist in the protection of some of that within the area. Provo, that's not something that the Provo has ever done before. But Cody says that he did something, not necessarily wetland protection, but protections within when he was in Midvale. So that is something that could be done. It would be eating into the sales tax increment. If that's something that we want to look at doing, we can. But like I said, there are already protections in place for some of those sensitive lands. Are there any questions?
Okay, first Becky, then Craig. Sorry, I saw her first.
Oh,
She shows.
no, it's okay. We do have, how many acres in wetland protection? 80? That we're
Over
monitoring?
In
Where?
the CRA.
No, south of the Parkway.
But
When-
that's not in the study area even, or the CRA.
No, but if they're talking about wetlands protection, right? And having that used for wetlands protection, that would be everything south of the Parkway. That's not wetlands protection north of the Parkway, correct?
I don't understand your question yet.
Well, Melissa was talking about monies from the sales tax increment that would go to wetlands protection. So those wetlands protection would be south of the Parkway, right?
Oh, are you talking about protection for any areas developed? So that little chunk that has a wetland area, or are you talking about?
In general,
Transferring?
it could be used for those areas if it's going to benefit the city.
Okay, do we still meet the necessary nexus there, Brian?
Well, I may have lost the train of conversation too, because I think you're right that it's on the list, but can't the money only be used inside the CRA?
If it's seen as benefiting the part of the CRA, then it can be used.
That's right.
So if we were to dedicate a portion of the tax increment to improving wetlands or protecting it, because the wetlands would be adjacent to the CRA, the argument could be that enhancing that area makes the CRA more valuable, more people want to be there because you've got this beautiful wetland to the south of it.
Well, normally what you do is you replace the wetland, right? So if it's buildable north of the Parkway, but not buildable south of the Parkway, then you have however many acres you take and however many acres, how I understand it, that the Army Corps of Engineers makes you replace it with. That's what we did with the Parkway, is we replaced it with the area to the south. And I think we already have, how many acres, 180 acres? And I know we're monitoring it. We have to monitor it for like 15 years.
I mean, we're done. Those are two different things, in the sense you're right that both of them could be an issue, but there's a difference between protection of existing wetlands and mitigation
Right.
in order to develop. And so it just ends up being a question of what it is you're trying to do. To Rachel's point and question, yes, the point, at the time that you're ready to expend those funds, you have to make those specific findings. In order for it to be legal to expend the funds, you're gonna have to make specific findings about how that benefits the CRA.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering. It's because if they're gonna be replaced, and it's probably gonna be replaced south of the Parkway, because we own more, from what I understand, than what we've replaced in mitigation. So is that just a swap, and is that where the money will be spent, is south of the Parkway? For wetlands mitigation, if we're talking about money being spent on wetlands mitigation.
Doesn't sound like we know the answer to any of those questions. I think that all that's been presented is that this is a possibility.
Yeah, and as of now, there's only one parcel in the proposed CRA that is in this green here.
That's the one just south of the.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that little bit.
Yeah.
And so my understanding is if we were to build on that in such a way that it's no longer a wetland, then we would need to do an offset elsewhere. Is that
Well,
correct, Brian?
probably the developer.
Because we would be taking out a wetland area. And we've seen stuff like that too in like the golf course and other areas in East Bay.
Right, yeah, that's one of the possibilities. I mean, that's a coordination effort between the developer and the US Army Corps of Engineers. Wetland mitigation isn't necessarily something that's given by right. You've got to convince them that it makes sense and get a permit from them to do it, and they determine what the ratio is, and over time, the ratios have gotten bigger and bigger. So yes, again, to that point, all of that is at this moment in time hypothetically possible, but it's going to be a very fact dependent question at the actual time of implementation.
Right. And most of the areas that we're looking at are not wetland, so we don't have to worry about it because we're not doing wetland impacts.
How close is that portion to the south of the parkway that is pre-zoned? How close does that go to the inlet where everybody's parked on that freeway? That little road that follows the freeway there that didn't, and they get their boats and they
Yeah,
drive through Mud Lake.
there's a big line of trucks on a Saturday there.
Well, you can boat all the way to
Yeah.
the lake there.
Yeah.
It's an inlet. And it looks like it might be pretty close. I mean, if you're looking at wetlands protection, that's probably not the best place to allow
Well, that's
boating.
right, yeah. I think for one, it's right next to the highway where they park.
Well, they
Right,
park on the frontage road
Yeah.
because there's no parking. But
that's
it's super
what we're
close.
talking about is on the other side of that exit. They're somewhere in that stretch between Lakeview and the Hobble Creek entrance. It's right around there.
I don't know, it's just really close. And I wonder what is the distance between the end of that parcel and the beginning of that channel?
Aaron says it's a half mile.
Oh, it's not long.
Yeah. Craig, did you have other comments too?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. So that's our wetland question. What were the other things that we gave you?
Let's see, there was, being in line with other plans, which I've referenced a few other plans that coordinate with the project area plan. It is in line with the general plan and the Southwest area plan. And some of the other things, Malia gave me a list earlier.
Kevin, they're on the last page of our minutes from the last meeting,
I count them.
the 6 items.
Oh, yellow setup.
There were questions regarding the Walmart ask, which Cody is going to address here in just a minute. You also received memos from both Tara Riddle regarding possible litigation and a memo from Cody regarding the Walmart ask. And so I'm
Sorry, can I read all this? It was a big meeting.
Right there, right?
Oh, yeah, there was 7, but I have.
Yeah, and it asked about the history of the area, which is also addressed in the Southwest area plan. Some of the requests were kind of redundant with work that's already been done by the planners who've done an excellent job with different area plans. And as I said, Tara Riddle did send out a memo regarding the possible litigation that's with some of the parcels on the west side. So I'm not going to address those again at this time. But if there are other questions, if there's something that I haven't answered, that you feel I haven't answered, please let me know.
Well, just to reiterate what we were saying earlier, I think the one thing we missed was just talking to the Agricultural Commission, which it sounds like you started that conversation, but I don't know if it would be best to have a sit down with them and include them in the conversation with the RDA so that they're aware what all this is about. We get their feedback in terms of where their work has been focused on. Because I don't know which properties in particular they're talking to the owners about.
Right.
but we want to make sure we're on the same page, and that makes us consistent with the city's general plan in any case. So sometimes the city just is so big, we don't talk to each other.
Yeah, because we don't want to be working at cross purposes.
Yeah.
Like if economic development has identified one spot where we really want to do a hotel, and the agricultural community is like, this is the best farmland we have in the city, it
Mhm.
absolutely should never be
Right.
developed, then I think we need to have that conversation. It would also be helpful too, to, in those conversations, talk about agriculture and economic development working together for, you know, agritourism or farms or things like that, like how we can use economic development to help support our agriculture, and seeing how keeping those open spaces and productive farmlands can be attractive as we're developing the adjacent parcels. A lot of people like to live in a more rural area that's picturesque, and being really smart about how we work with those property owners is going to be crucial, so that we don't have things, I don't know, broken apart thoughtlessly when somebody dies, and we end up with poor developments. All right.
All right, well, I will turn the time over to Cody, who's going to
Okay.
go over the more details of the Walmart parcel.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, RDA board. Really appreciate your time. And here to go over, so Cody Hill, Economic Development Division Director. And I'm going to be going over the cost benefit analysis for the Walmart. Basically, what is the project in its totality? What does it look like? And what are the hurdles to them just breaking ground today and building it? And so what's preventing that development from happening? And what is their ask to the City of Provo, to the redevelopment agency? And what is the net benefit if we are to provide for that ask? What does it look like? So what is the total cost benefit analysis? So this is the project in its totality, where it sits. They're looking at 152-story townhomes. They're looking at a Walmart supercenter, which is really the driver for much of the revenues, and then some out parcel retail, about 35,000 square feet. And so when you have a Walmart, you often see retail that is kind of synergistic with that, supports the community. And so that's what that is talking about right there. And this is what the project looks like. And Aaron will be going over that in more detail after me. Yes.
Katrice has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Cody, I had a question, like the 35,000 square feet, that just doesn't mean anything to me. Would that be like generally 3 or 4? You know,
So we do have the developers in the back,
Businesses.
and they could kind of speak to how many actual pads they're thinking about would make up that.
Thank you, Brian.
yeah,
Ryan Folger with Folger Pratt. So if you look at the map there, that front edge that doesn't have any buildings currently planned on it is where that inline retail will go. So we'll basically fill up the remainder of the frontage along Lakeview. And the 35 to 40,000 square feet is really driven by the parking requirements. And when we look at, the amount of space that we have to lease to retailers and how we have to park it, that's the amount that we can fit on that assemblage. Is that helpful?
And could you break down the kind of retailers you would expect would fit into that?
We haven't started marketing it yet. We've had a fair amount of inbound interest, whether it's Chick-fil-A or an In-N-Out or, more standalone, or if they're more combined in line, we're still sort of working through that.
And all of that would have access on Lakeview?
Through the new light that we're putting on, they would come in that same main entrance as Walmart and then take a left and then access it from behind on that new through block connector. Yeah, or the right out.
All right, please
Okay.
continue.
Yeah, I submitted these documents on Tuesday, I think Monday evening. There's been since an update to the extraordinary costs. So the earthwork is the same. So the earthwork, it's too low, basically. You have to increase the elevation on the site to build anything there, whether it's a super Walmart or houses or an elementary school. It's below the water table, and so you'd have to increase the elevation. So bringing in dirt, compacting it, letting it settle, all of that is very expensive. So that's that 7.5 million. And then storm drain, that is also has not changed, but there's an additional, Walmart has decided that it requires rammed aggregated piers to build on, and basically, no. Oh, please, yeah.
Yeah, so there's Jamie Chapman with Folger Pratt. So this number is not inclusive of the rammed aggregate piers that
Yes, that would be an
Walmart
additional
foundation.
$1.2 million.
That's right. And then the public road improvements, as we've gone in further study with UDOT, the interchange improvements that are needed, that public road improvement number is going up to about $3.5 million for what's
Right, yeah. And so I got these additional costs, I believe on Wednesday or Thursday, so after this was submitted. And so these are new costs that are going to have to be realized in order for this project to come to fruition. So that $10 million figure is going to be closer to 13.3 million.
So UDOT just doubled the cost of the public road improvements on them?
Yes.
Love it when they do that. Okay.
Which one was that though?
The public road improvements is going from 1.7 to 3.5.
Oh, I said 13.
But is this the first time that they've had a conversation with UDOT, or did UDOT actually switch those numbers around?
No, initially, we had looked at, our traffic study generated what we understood to be the necessary traffic improvements. When it was then submitted to UDOT, that's where more information came about the deficiencies at that interchange, and what all would be needed. And we're still working through that. For example, a sign structure, kind of up in the air, whether it can support the new signs for the lanes that need to be done. So that's another additional cost. It's not even in that 3.5 quite yet. So it just, as we worked with UDOT, it's.
Okay, so you're saying that your UDOT analysis hasn't been completed yet?
That's accurate. I mean, they've agreed to the scope of work that needs to be done. It's dialing in the costs that is still fluctuating.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, the $13.3 million is the extraordinary costs of developing on this site, versus if they were going to go to somewhere that didn't have these higher requirements for earthwork, for developing on aggregated piers, and the road improvements. So the ask that they have for Provo City and the redevelopment agency is as follows. So there's $1 million of American Rescue Plan Act that was dedicated to supporting a grocer in Provo, and that was probably back in 2021. And these funds have not been spent; they haven't been programmed, so we still have these funds. Then also fill dirt. We do have a project up in Buckley Draw that had excess amount of dirt that we were looking for a place to unload it, and they were looking for dirt, so we can provide close to $1 million in fill dirt for that site. And then they're looking for post-performance sales tax revenues, 6.9 million. So a total support of 8.9 million. And the estimated value of the fill dirt, and that's post-performance sales tax by Walmart.
So, but it's presumably if the extraordinary costs are 3 million more, that's not going to be adequate.
They haven't requested additional
Okay.
at this point. Yes.
And how long would it take that post-performance incentive? How long would it take to pay that off?
So yeah, it takes about 13 years. Based on what we're estimating on the sales, the sales tax revenue projections. So, and it wouldn't be 100% of the sales tax increment that we're getting. So we get 0.5% based on point of sales, and it would be half of that 0.5%.
So,
So 0.25% would go to Provo City and 1/4 would go to the incentive. Yeah.
That's for 20 years.
So
That's until this amount is paid off, or 20 years, whichever happens
Correct.
first.
Correct. And so the economic benefits that we're looking at, there's obviously going to be property tax increase. They're going to be building super Walmart housing and additional retail. And so we would see the current property value, which is now 1.7, increase by 81.1 million, which we would assume would be an additional 144,000 of property tax revenue going to Provo City. And then from the sales tax revenue perspective, obviously we always look at the base first, and that's 0. It's a vacant lot right now, not even a lemonade stand. And the estimated annual sales at build out would be 199 million. And then the estimated sales tax revenues to Provo would be 1 million. And the sales tax revenues to Provo, only new sales, would be 539,000. And so I think it's important to explain the differentiation between those last two numbers. Yeah, so when we're looking at creating a project area budget, the state defines increment a specific way, which is what's being generated there now, which is 0. How much is going to be generated after it's built out, which is 199 million. And how much revenue is that going to bring in, which is 1 million. That's very simple. But when we as a city in Provo are thinking about this project and what is the true benefit to the city, it's not this number. It's not going to create $1 million of additional, because people that are living in Provo now are going to change their sales habits within Provo. And so it's going to cannibalize a lot of the sales that are happening in Provo. So instead of going to Target to go buy my groceries, now I'm going to, buy in East Bay. Now I'm just going to go to this Walmart. It's closer. That's not additional sales tax revenues to Provo City. We're not getting any additional money from that person's habits. But the people that are going to Springville to shop, or going to Orem to the Walmart there, and once this Walmart is built and they change their sales habits and they start shopping in Provo, those are the revenues that are true additional revenues to the city. That's true benefit. And it is about 1/3 of the sales. And so to be,
hey, that's very helpful. And then of the 359, that then gets split with Walmart?
no,
Which portion gets split with Walmart?
the portion that gets split with Walmart is this portion. But when I'm looking at calculating the benefit to the city, I'm looking at this portion.
But it doesn't take into account the cost. Because the tax increment financing, the Walmart portion, it's coming out of the 1 million. So we're actually paying 500,000, we're only bringing in 359.
Yeah,
We're actually underwater for the next.
for a little bit, and
10 years.
and you can see that in one of the slides.
I just want to make sure I got it straight.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes cities can be skeptical of bringing in big box stores, is the worry that we're underwater for a time and then they don't stay around. So they're only around long enough to get the benefit of the tax increment. And then once it's supposed to switch and really be profitable for the city, they lose it.
Yeah. And so looking at it from the totality of the sales, the 100% of sales, you see that the net cost is that 8.9 million that we talked about before, meeting the ask that they're requesting. The estimated benefit is 37.7 million, and then the net benefit is 23 million. And then this is just the true additional revenues that we're gonna get, not sales that are getting cannibalized within Provo City. And so that is an estimated benefit is 14.8 million, with an estimated net benefit of about 6 million. No, not on there. Oh, here it is. Yes, it is. So this is what you were.
Just a second,
This is what
we've got questions over here.
Oh, okay.
So is that still the 13 or 20 years, whichever one comes sooner, or is that a 20-year? Back on that profit thing?
Yeah, so we can see that actually this answers both questions, I think. So what you were saying is, doesn't that mean we're gonna actually have a little bit of negative? That's right here. So the difference each year is, and this is just including that 1/3 of the total sales. So here we have the total costs, 554,000, the total benefit, 530,000. So we're less 24,000 for year 2, for example. And that's going to shrink every single year as there's more growth and development in the area. I think because I looked at what is there now, what we're leaking to other cities as far as sales tax revenues now, and then also the additional growth that's going to happen. So right now there's 14,500 people generally in that area. And based on a Mountain Land Association of Governments projection, there's going to be 14,600 additional residents in that area. And so over the next 20 years, more and more people are going to be moving in, which means if we build this Walmart there, if they build this Walmart there, that's going to be less dollars leaked and more dollars that we're capturing. And so you see that basically at year 6, it makes that switch to where we're no longer underwater because of the additional residents that are moving in. And then we have a large jump here at year 11 to 12. That is when they're going to get their last payment, assumed last payment, because they'll reach that.
Sorry, what's that number? So,
Year 12.
and what's the number? 2039?
Yes. And then at year 13, 2040, the city will have the totality of the increment, no longer participating in any or pledging any. And then that's where we get that 14.8 million total benefit. And this X? Yeah. The 5.9 million net benefit.
After 20 years.
After 20 years. And then every year thereafter, it's just an additional $1 million in revenues to the city.
But that all, yeah, the bulk of that comes after year 12.
Yes.
Well, if
So
there's growth on the west side, right? I mean, if people are selling their farmland, if we're actually seeing building, I mean, I have a couple of properties that aren't building at all, even though they have entitled units. There's not.
So you still would see a net benefit even without the growth. So this less 30, you could just drag the less 30 across and you would still see a net benefit after 20 years. It would be a little bit more modest, but there would definitely be a net benefit. So I'm happy to address any additional questions that you have. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk to just a little bit more. So for owners of property, especially the farmers, one thing that I like to describe, or how I describe the creation of a CRA, a community reinvestment area, as it's a matter of buckets. So when you pay your property taxes now, if you're not in a CRA, you pay your property taxes to the city, and the city can use those property taxes anywhere in the city. They can use it for fire, for police, for utilities, however they want. If you're in a CRA and you have done some development and you pay your property taxes to the city, then the city doesn't just put that all in the general fund. Some of it, a portion of it, whatever this RDA has agreed to, let's just say it's 50% for ease sake, goes in a separate bucket. And the city is obligated to spend that to benefit that specific area. So rather than their taxes being spent throughout the city, a portion of their taxes are being spent to directly benefit their area where they live. And that is the only thing it does. It doesn't obligate them to sell. It doesn't give the city a potential in on acquiring their property. It's the only thing a CRA does is it slightly changes how we are able to spend our the tax dollars, how we're able to allocate them. So. Great.
Yes, Becky.
So one thing I was hoping is with this broad brush, that we would look at 500 West and the needs that 500 West has, because 500 West is a mess. And the more traffic that goes down there, the bigger mess it's going to be. I mean, right now it significantly narrows. It is never was built to be an arterial road. It was meant to be a country road that just dead ended at the end. It significantly narrows. 1560 and 1570 don't line up. It's a nightmare. And I was hoping that something could be done there, because the more traffic, we just keep on dumping traffic down the road that's not even meant to accommodate traffic. What is the plan to deal with that? I mean, we were saying this is the plan to deal with the Lakeview Parkway, but what's the plan to deal with like the 1560, 1570, or the width of the road, or it's a mess.
I can't speak to north of our property, but along our entire frontage, it's being widened to the master plan width. It's a 5-lane minor arterial road, and so all of those improvements are captured in that public improvement number that's shown there, and all that work is being done by the developer.
Are you moving the open pump house? Because the open pump house is a complete block. You can't see. I mean, each one of those, it's a nightmare. You can't see around it. It was built poorly. It should never have been put where it is. You can't see making turns coming out. You're about ready to get hit. The roads don't line up.
Yeah,
you can't see anywhere.
I know there's been some discussion. I believe, to be honest, I think Public Works will need to be able to give that opinion. At this time, it's not a part of our project to deal with that pump house. But I believe the city has stated that they have some plans for that in the future. I'm not sure what those are currently.
And how far do those road developments you anticipate from your property north?
That stops at the northern corner of our property. Yeah.
So that doesn't address the issue you're bringing.
No, it doesn't address those issues, no. And that's been known since they put that through to the Parkway. And the Parkway was only envisioned like what, 08, 04, something like that. So yeah, that does concern me. And then looking forward to the other, with the buildup and having 2-story townhomes with these, even though my house is 2 stories down below, that's still a towering 2-story. We've always talked about graduating height in whatever came there. Like you would have just like a 1-story right there by the dike, have it graduate up. Otherwise you've got these big, massive, even though they're townhomes. It's become a problem when we're raising up the land in the Southwest, that we just need to accommodate for something like that.
All right. Do we have more questions for Cody about the Walmart part of this CRA? Can you give us more information on the park part of the CRA of that RFP?
Yeah. So we have not announced the who we've selected for the RFP process. We plan to do that once we have an agreement signed with them. But broadly speaking, we intend to have a long-term lease on the property, maintain ownership of it, and work with the development group on a profit sharing concept, whereby they would pledge, I think it was 2.5 or 3.5% of their revenues from their development, the hotel and all the commercial components to Provo City. And we are interested in tax increments for that area, potentially to just see what it could get, to see what, because we're confident that they can build great product without any public support. But given that the city will have a financial interest in the project, we're interested in seeing what enhancements could they make to their project with tax increment to benefit the area to make it a better product.
Are we talking about the land south of this, the Epic Sports Park?
Yes.
That
Yeah, and so
hotel?
Yes.
if the city's retaining ownership of the land and simply leasing it out, then the city would not realize the increased value of the property tax, would it?
The city would get more property tax revenues, and if tax increment was able to bring in more revenues directly, then the profit sharing would increase the amount that we would get from that.
The city pays itself property taxes for city-owned property?
Oh, you're talking about during the duration of the participation period?
Yeah, because if we just sold the land to them, then they would pay property taxes on it,
Right,
which we would benefit from.
yeah.
But if we retain ownership of the land,
Would that 2.5% or 3.5% be in higher value than what their property tax would be, is your question?
yeah, like we just wouldn't get extra property tax on that land.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that right now. It's still conceptual. I don't have
Okay.
their projections at this point, but
But is
And-
that the basic understanding though? Like if we continue to own the land, nobody gets property tax on it? Us in the school district and the water conservancy
That's true.
district? Okay,
yeah,
But,
Becky,
but the point I think he's trying to make is the lease where they pay us 2 to 3%. Isn't that what they would pay us for the land, is the 2 to 3% of their profit?
but yeah,
Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
yeah,
That would
and
be
not the profit, the revenue.
the revenue.
right.
Okay,
No, I
so
mean, we
that
would
actually
be
might
getting
be.
money, but it's like the school district wouldn't
Exactly.
receive the increased value of what would have been the property tax because we would still own it.
That's true.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood that twist.
I think that's true. Let me, I'll have to
Okay.
get back to you on that. This is something that no one has ever heard of a city doing before.
Oh,
The people
new
that we're working
territory.
with, they have done something with Sitla
mhm.
in long-term lease development, but they
What
have
is-
never done
what
it
is
with
Sitla?
That's school lands.
the school land
Oh.
trust. Yeah, but they've never heard of. I don't know that anyone has ever heard of a city doing something like that before.
Okay,
So it might be a little bit innovative and new territory.
okay, I'm really curious to see how that will go.
Yeah.
I'm also really excited to get something on that corner so that there is more hospitality and retail support for both the airport and the park. Because we absolutely need something right there for all of our park goers, our tournament attendees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a sense of timeline for that? If you got the RFP closed,
I'm expecting a term sheet this week.
okay. But then how long? I'm impatient, Cody.
I mean, once the term sheet is looked at, then I mean, it'll probably be late January that we have an agreement that we'll bring to you.
Yeah, well, and timing brings up the next question about the Walmart, because clearly having a Walmart would be beneficial with the sports park and everything. You run over, get another cooler and more drinks and things like that. So when will we have a discussion about timeline for Walmart? Will that be later today or?
So that would be the January 13th meeting.
Okay,
Once that's, once we have it figured out, whether it's getting approved and moving forward or not, then we'll know.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have other questions or movements?
Maybe just an understanding for what, Cody, for what you need now from the board.
Oh, so this was just informational purposes,
Okay.
because we wanted to just be ready with all of your questions and concerns on January 13th. So yeah, the purpose for this was just purely informational for you and then also for us to know what your questions, what your concerns were.
Yeah.
So it would be good for us to let our residents in the area and other people who are concerned know about this, encourage them to watch this portion of our meeting, read the documents so that we can be having productive, informed conversations with them ahead of the January 13th meeting. Yes.
I have done that. Provo Bay seems more concerned about that parcel between Durant's and Carter owned parcel between Durant's and the sports park. I know that's not in there. What do we have planned for that? Because it's not in a CRA.
Can you bring up the Exhibit A map again, Kevin? Thank you.
Because it's right there by their homes, right? And they're more concerned about the Hinckley property that's in the ag, in the general plan. Yeah. It's Carter owned property. I think it's George Carter property.
I'm such a visual person. It helps me to see the thing.
It's just north of the sports park and south of the Durant home.
And Cody, oh, here we go. Oh, wait.
All right, which ones are you talking about? Bogdan?
Here. No, this is Hinkley Man right here. This is Carter.
Oh, you press the button and point the laser pointer.
Which button?
The green one with the line on it. Yeah, hold it.
Don't put your eye out.
I don't think it worked.
On the screen, sometimes it doesn't work, yeah.
There we go.
But not on the screen.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, now getting it back.
Draw right on the TV if you want.
Just, yeah.
So they're actually concerned about the whole thing, but John owns this section of by Carter. And I know Carter's are chomping at the bit to sell it in over here. I don't know about that portion there. Because this is where it's between the sports park and it's between their homes. They're concerned about what goes on here, what goes in there. Because that's their home. That's their
Becky, I thought you were talking about the parcel to the west of that too, or just those two?
Well, we own a parcel here that's on the general plan for, now Jeff owns this stuff.
Yeah.
We own like a 5 acre parcel here, but it's on the general plan for neighborhood commercial. So they're not so concerned about that. This is airport industrial, which serves a purpose because you have, according to Brian, and he was educating me, it's not just the noise of the planes, but it's also the vibrations and everything that comes with the airport that isn't compatible with residential use. So here, they're concerned about what we would get here. It's not that they necessarily want to incentivize it. Because I told them, if you want to incentivize it, let me know, but it's a huge concern. What am I gonna get here? What can I live with here? Cause my home's here, they're fairly new homes. And these ones were built like within the last 5 or 6 years.
So Becky, would you want those areas added to this CRA or?
So far, they've told me, they haven't said that they do, but I think it's a great discussion for us because, I mean, if they are added to the CRA, we would have more control of what goes in, right?
I don't know that we have more control, but we would already have available to us these tools to offer incentives.
Yeah.
So let's maybe follow up on that before the 13th. We are basically at time for this agenda item.
I was just gonna say also, Cody, maybe between now and the 13th, if you can, connect with the Agricultural Commission. And have them come back at that time with some feel for what their thoughts are.
Okay.
As part of the next
Yeah,
presentation, I think.
I'd like to hear from them. I'd
Yeah.
like them to join you at the presentation.
Okay.
So we can get everyone on the same page.
Make
Right.
it show up and work.
Or even invite John. You know, I don't think it would be bad to have Hinckley if he wants to be here. And this is his property.
All right. That sounds
Appreciate
good.
it.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Cody.
Thanks, Cody.
If there's no objection, we will now recess the RDA Governing Board and convene as the Provo Municipal Council by unanimous consent.
Thank you, Rachel. We'll now, we are reconvened as a council. We welcome Councillor Hoban, who has joined us, and also Mayor Garcia. And we are reconvened just in time for a break.
Yay.
We'll take a 10-minute break and reconvene as a council at 2:20.
What are you doing?
It's fun.
Good. Have you had fun? You've got good.
Stress.
Oh, no.
Recording stopped.
My red sweater reflecting off my shiny.
know.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We'll reconvene our municipal council meeting and begin with the next item on our agenda, which is an ordinance amending the general plan map classification of real property generally located at 1870 South 500 West from commercial to residential designation. This is in the Lakeview neighborhood. Will be presented by our planning supervisor, Aaron Ardmore. Lakewood.
All right, thank you, City Council. So this is kind of tied to the previous item. It's also tied to the next item. So we might kind of mix a little bit as we go through it. So here in front of you, you can see the general concept plan for developing the townhomes, which is the reason for the ask for the general plan amendment and the zone map amendment. But a lot of this is tied to the Walmart property itself. As you probably read through the development agreement, you saw a number of constraints there and proffers there that would kind of tie this all together. So just to briefly go through it and then hopefully open it up to questions or concerns that you might have. So 150 rental townhomes is what's being proposed with amenity spaces throughout the development, bordering the Walmart and then the residential neighborhood to the north. There's the request itself. So 2-bed and 3-bed units. They've parked it to meet the zone that they're asking for. So they didn't ask for any parking reductions from the Planning Commission on this one. I should note that the Planning Commission did hear this already as it's coming to you today just for a study session. We would anticipate this coming back on the January 13th hearing when you hear the CRA again and these general plan and zone map amendments together with that. So listing out their amenities, just over 2.5 acres of open space, kind of detailing the different amenity packages that they have there to make this a livable community. Then we've got the, to touch on the concern that Becky had earlier, 2-story townhomes, very similar in scope and height to what the R1 zone could currently build to the north. A couple different color options and roof styles there. But again, all this is tied to if Walmart moves forward, right? So the way that this makes sense to development services and based on our recommendations is if the Walmart moves forward, then we see that these amendments to the general plan and zone map make sense to provide that buffer to kind of bring more rooftops to the Walmart development. If the Walmart weren't to move forward, then there'd be some questions. So hopefully you've read through the staff reports and have gotten that kind of that notion from what we've written, and I would just open up to any questions that you have for me.
Questions for Aaron? Councillor Christensen.
And is retail possible here? I mean, is there a reason we're not considering retail?
On the part that's trying to be amended to residential?
Yeah.
That's not the request, right? So they've left some 2 or 3 parcels to the south of the.
No, I'm aware of that. And I'm
but-
just thinking what the west side needs is more retail, not more housing like this. Yes, we need more housing, we need more rentals, got that. It seems like we've got a lot of that product. What we need more of is commercial. So I'm just asking the question, is that even a possibility?
Would the market support that? I think the applicant would be better suited to address that.
Brian Folger with Folger Pratt. So if you step back and sort of look at this property as a whole, what retail really likes is traffic, trips and eyeballs, right? And so, there's a reason that Walmart has come in and asked to be right on the 15 mile Lakeview. And then, we have continued that retail along Lakeview. Everything that's sort of back along Fifth West, we don't view as economically buildable within the next, 10 years to be able to build that out. And so it's, could retail work there someday? Possibly. But for a plan that we need to plan for and try and build out within the, next several years, it's not economic. It would be very difficult to find tenants that would pay rent to cover tenant improvements to make it a financially viable project.
So could you just tell us how you think about that? You've got 35,000 square feet of retail south of the Walmart. How did you get 35,000? Why not 15,000 or 60,000?
So again, in thinking through this, we're looking at this as a mixed use project, a horizontal mixed use project. And so, we've got about half of this space dedicated to Walmart. With the area that Walmart wanted to take, it did leave that dog leg. And so what we try and do is think through mixes that will work sort of individually and collectively together. If we were to only do townhomes behind the Walmart, we wouldn't be able to rent them, and it wouldn't be financially feasible to manage such a small number. And so we're sort of backing into it that way. We're trying to maximize the retail along Lakeview. That 35 to 40,000 square feet, like I said earlier, is driven by parking requirements. It's what we can fit on that area. And then we worked to design an efficient community sort of back behind it in the leftover space.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I have another question, if you wouldn't mind. I'm sorry, could you remind me of your name?
Ryan Folger.
Ryan. In addition to the retail component, which we've been looking closely at, the other probably elephant in the room is the rental versus owner occupied product. We've had a goal as a council to increase owner occupancy in the city for the last 2 years. And I read through the applicant report and the report to the Planning Commission. Often this project was referred to as providing additional housing options. Well, in Provo, where 50 to 60% of our housing is rented, a rentable product, to me, other housing options would be more to owner occupied units. Would you consider adjusting so that half could be, and I love the buffer concept between residents to the north. Could this be adjusted where half of the product could be owner occupied and half for rent?
Yeah, and we've discussed that and studied it. There are a couple of challenges that go along with that, but to back up, when we look at sort of the housing that is available in Provo, I understand there is a large portion that is for rent. Is student housing part of that number? Is that
Yes.
Okay, so
yes.
so there's if you sort of set that aside, probably the numbers probably look a little bit different.
Sure.
But if you are a young family and you're coming to Provo, and I've had several family members that have done this the last couple of years, you are looking, if you're wanting to rent something, it's either 30 to 40 years old, or it's an apartment that is not conducive to family living. So you guys may be familiar, we're currently developing the Dendry, which are townhomes at the mouth of Provo Canyon. And really, and similar to this, different pricing structure. But what we're trying to do is provide a rental option for families that's not an apartment, where they're not going to have to go in and spend $500,000 to $800,000 for a starter home. Because as you guys know, costs have really gone up. In Provo. So when we look at this for a similar townhome, you know, stuff just in the area is selling for around $500,000. You know, say a 10% deposit on that would be about $50,000. And then your mortgage and insurance and property taxes, we're looking at about a $700 a month discount to have the rental versus homeownership. And so what we're trying to do, I understand it doesn't necessarily solve we want people to own. I think that's a great goal, but it does provide diversity that we don't currently see in the marketplace. So looking at it as a whole, that's sort of how to think about it. Second challenge is in thinking through a build to rent community, it's very inefficient to staff. You don't get the economies of scale to cover the costs of the staffing, leasing, the maintenance with just half the units, which is why I mentioned we really tried to target a more efficient community that way. And then the third thing is, you know, just we are the developers on this. We don't develop for sale. I don't know that for sale would actually pencil right now. And it's not in line with sort of the long-term ownership goals that the current ownership has. So there are a number of different things. I'm sure the last couple probably don't play well, but just to be honest with you guys, that's kind of everything.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Other comments, questions? Yes, Councilor Bogdan.
Vern's here probably for me, and so is Gordon. What are we gonna do about 500 West with this, in the pump house?
Um, 500 West will be widened to the proper cross section toward the end of their property. We'll bring it back to a 2-lane facility after the access into the residential properties there. We've also taken safety into consideration. I think we've all understood what happened on 550 over by the neighborhood Walmart. We have a raised median that goes from that point all the way down to the traffic signal at Lakeview Parkway. So there won't be any left turns into a right of way that's right in, right out.
So it's right in, right out. So it'll be right in, right out at the.
Accessing the commercial property also.
Becky, that's all detailed in 4G of the development agreement as well. If you want to refer to that.
But that will be a right in, right out, and then there'll be just a regular intersection at the one right just to the north of it, that one right there.
That one's a full intersection. Okay, so that doesn't impede the left-hand turns from across the street, right?
That will allow for a left turn movement going southbound on 5th West into the development there. It will not accommodate a southbound left turn movement into the commercial area. It's too close to the Lakeview Parkway intersection.
My brain just explain that to me again.
So how would they get in?
They get in the right in, right out. So this Lakeview Parkway is right here, come in, you got a right in, right out here. This is not showing, this is the wrong site plan because that's showing a left turn in there and that's not allowed by development agreement. We've got a raised median all the way up to this spot right here. And then this is a full intersection. It's not signalized though. Signalized intersections on 5th, signalized intersections at the main entrance to the gas station and to the Walmart.
So why aren't we having them relocate the open pump house? Because the open pump house, we've talked about it a million times, as a site distance issue. How come the open pump house is gonna stay? How come we're not gonna redesign that or move it or?
The pump house is far enough back that it's not a site distance issue for this intersection. Is that what you're asking about?
No, it is for Lakewood and 5th West.
So the pump house you're talking about is right up here, correct? Yeah, so this is offsite. This intersection, what they're doing here does not this isn't an impact there. That's something if we want to do in the future, that'd be a offsite, something the city will look at in the future.
And we're not doing anything with 1560 and 1570? Or widening below?
So they're
South of
between the fifth
1560.
west, that's all they're involved in, and
Oh, but us,
well,
the city, us,
so
us.
we don't have a capital, most of our capital projects right now are just the sidewalk projects right now. We certainly, those could be looked at by the council each year if we wanted to move money from sidewalk projects to road widening projects. Those are options as well. Those will be offset and we can look at the budget.
Because all these concern me, the open pump house, the offset, I mean, we're dumping more and more and more traffic on Fifth Avenue. And it's just not. It's got serious issues. And the more traffic we dump on it, the more issues we're gonna have.
So those are things certainly we can look at through the budget cycle. There's projects we want to look at on Fifth West. Those are things we could certainly talk about.
Okay. And
This project, just to kind of give you time frame, the dirt is being moved into the site. I think it's 6 months of settling. And so by the time they construct and open up, I think we're probably 1.5 to 2 years. I don't want to reach any sooner. What's that?
Yeah, that's right.
So there's almost 2 years before the first car hits it. So the council has plenty of time to decide if they want to do something on Fifth West.
are we almost done bringing in the fill dirt?
We got another month.
I'm starting to feel the vibrations. I'm starting to see things shake on my shelves. So yeah, I know they're over that far. Okay, all right. And then for the contractor, how do you feel about graduating the height of the house from the dike going south? Because to me, that's an issue. A huge issue. Along with the rental properties, because I know this area really, really well. And rental properties, yeah, we need homes for sale.
Jamie Chapman with Fulton Pratt. So as you know, these are 2-story townhomes. The building height is around 24 to 5 feet. I think, number one, we purposely designed it. In fact, I think this is, I believe, step old of the site plan, but we've intentionally focused the townhomes on the northern property line to be ending on the single family neighborhood. So we don't have, it's not all of them, but the majority of them are ending on that property line. And so that we don't have a tremendous number of windows looking out onto the single family neighborhoods from a privacy standpoint. We are set back 20 feet from the northern property line, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the minimum is 10 feet from that northern property line. So we're exceeding the minimum setback in zone. And then, I believe, to be honest, it's just a function of the grade out there. I mean, the site needs to be brought up 6 or so feet, which is about the top of the dike, as you know. The homes to the north of it are
way down low, yeah.
So if
That's my problem.
why the dike is there, because it would be in a floodplain if it weren't, right? And so, I feel like we've done a good job of kind of mitigating those concerns. I understand it's not quite what you would prefer. But again, doing an end cap, if that's not clear, so basically the townhomes run and that the units face towards each other rather than facing the single family neighborhood. There's very few windows on the end of a building, so that there's not a lot of visibility into those single family neighborhoods. And so we feel like we've done a good job mitigating those concerns. It's kind of how what happens when a property is developed adjacent to single family homes.
James, as long as you're at the microphone, could I invite you to add any color to what Brian said earlier relative to the rental market? I assume you have other projects in the state or in Salt Lake County. An article was shared among council members earlier today about incentives that are being offered because of over rental development in downtown Salt Lake. to get to occupancy. Multiple months free rent. So what are you seeing at a higher level relative to the rental market in Utah County and Salt Lake County? I mean, we have other projects coming to us around the mall, Brixton Capital. They want to put apartments as well. They're doing a owner occupied element of their project. But one concern we would have is just the current rental market.
Unfortunately, I would ask Brian to speak to that. I'm more of the boots on the ground guy.
Okay, no problem.
So, and you guys are obviously aware of where interest rates were through COVID and through 21 and then the abrupt increase in interest rates in late 22. So, you know, at that point in time, just about any proposed apartment development penciled, and Salt Lake City was performing very well. And so all of a sudden you had developers from all over the country coming in and not just building, you know, 6 to 8 story apartment communities, but towers. And so they delivered just a massive amount of apartments, major oversupply in downtown Salt Lake City. And so you saw rents, you know, go from, I mean, there were 2 to 3 bedroom units in downtown Salt Lake renting for $6,000 a month. Since then, rents have dropped 20 to 25%. And that's really more of a sub-market risk and an issue that they're dealing with. We developed another community in the Sandy Draper area. And that, due to the oversupply and the concessions that you're talking about in Salt Lake, saw a small decline in rents and a little bit of softness, but it's come back quite well. The other thing that we've seen in the rental market is really since November of 2022, there really haven't been a lot of new starts. And so eventually that supply will burn through and it will kind of come back. We don't view this sub-market as an area that's been oversupplied. We're not concerned about the rentals here.
Because of the actual product itself.
Right, the product, and there hasn't been a dramatic amount of rents. And really, we differentiate this from a product type standpoint from apartments because it is more similar to living in the same family residence. And so I'm not concerned about that softness here. Although you are absolutely right, it has been a bit of a bloodbath out there. If we could go back to just the site plan, just one other thing I failed to mention, as we went through this, a couple of other sort of issues with doing for sale here. One, I think I mentioned that dog leg, you know, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going out to buy my first home, I'm not looking to be right behind a Walmart loading dock. So it just really does create issues for sale there. And then the fact that we weren't the way that it turned out for the traffic flow off of 5th West, we do have a fair amount of traffic that's coming to the site, which if you look at the property across the street, they don't have any through traffic in the big Walmart supercenter. We do feel strongly that this residential community is much more conducive to rental than ownership.
Okay, thanks again. Rachel.
Yeah, would the streets within your community continue to be privately owned by your community?
Yeah, so we went back and forth on that with city staff, and these will remain privately, basically a public access over a private street. And so there will be an easement for public access to the back of sidewalks, so for pedestrians and vehicles, and be maintained by the community.
Okay. Yeah, because I know we do have need for family rental housing. We have a lot of student families, and I think we'll be getting more as Norda College expands, and they haven't built student housing yet with their facility. So this would be a great place for a lot of that. But if we had our young professionals living in a place like this as well, this looks like a great place to channel them, because the parking concerns that have been raised in other neighborhoods, they can take care of that because they own the streets right here, and they would be able to address that. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. Any other questions? Comments? George?
I guess I could just ask Aaron for clarification then on the staff response there. Only if Walmart proceeds is your answer to those first two questions. And then the planning commission approved with the conditions. So where does that put us at this point? What are you recommending to us?
So in your packet, you should have seen a draft development agreement.
Uh-huh.
And it ties all of these changes to Walmart proceeding. So even down to the detail of footing and foundation inspections being approved on Walmart before permits can be issued on the townhomes, things like that. And then there's kind of reversal actions written into the development agreement that could be taken by the city if the Walmart didn't proceed.
Okay.
So we're trying to be really careful about it where we believe that if Walmart comes in, we're trying to make sure that we don't see a story and then have the story changed on us in the middle of it.
I guess I didn't quite understand why we wouldn't just decide to wait and not make a decision.
It's my understanding that the property owner, it's all owned by one property owner at this time.
Okay.
And there's contractual obligations between the two types of development through this parcel.
All right. Thank you.
Patrice?
A few thoughts on this. Thanks to Gary. The dendry looks great. Great project. But that's a lot of rentals right there. And we were really excited and we gave concessions on those rentals because we thought that we're going to have those awesome, innovative entrepreneurial spots that were going to be built. And now they're not going to be built. So that's really discouraging. Now we just have all these rentals without the upside that we were really hoping for. We had the mix come in. They're all supposed to be for sale. None of them ended up for sale, so we didn't do a development agreement. We have the one just over the bypass in East Bay that was all supposed to have a whole tower of for sale units. Didn't get done. And they're reworking their development agreement now, and that's kind of a mess. We're going to be redeveloping the mall in Provo City, which is desperately needed. And there's a lot of rentals planned for that, which I think are very appropriate and needed, and it fits for that area and that project. You say the people don't want to own something behind a Walmart. I look at Harmon's. Harmon's has $1 million plus homes behind it. I wouldn't do it, but people did it. So the thing is, this is going to be a combined project. People are going to know what they're buying into. There's no switch and bait. Like, they'll know there's a Walmart. And the whole difference in getting people into homes and into housing is that it has to be the less desirable place or the smaller square footage, because that's what they can afford. And that is where homeownership is starting now. I know that that's different than in the past where people had an ideal in their mind, but you know, that is doable now and people look forward to that and they're excited about that. Condos would be amazing here. Townhomes for sale would be amazing here and they would do well. And so I just think that looking at the big picture of the city, I do have those concerns. And I absolutely, regardless of what happens, would want the Walmart secured 100% without a doubt before anything was done on any possible housing.
Thank you. Patrice? Others? Councilor Christensen?
I would add my concerns as well. The project you're developing, Devontree? Yeah.
Very, sorry, just to clarify, it's a very different product type and a very different for rent.
Yeah. No, totally get that. And again, part of the pitch was the incubators, and this is going to be, you know, critical to that mix. And I didn't buy any of it. I voted against it because there was no for sale housing. I don't feel any different than that. Now I know it's challenging, but I just have to believe with your creativity, there's something that can come back. We need home ownership. And I feel very strongly that there has to be a way to make this work. I would not support anything that didn't have that, for a lot of the reasons Patrice just talked about.
Yeah, understood. And Jamie and I were part of that master plan up there. One of the big things that happened since then is COVID. And, you know, not only have we had interest rates increase dramatically, like we discussed, and made, new office development very challenging from that standpoint, but office, by itself is no longer feasible for development. Unless you're, yeah, so.
Yeah,
we
and totally get that, but we voted on this a year ago?
Yeah, it was, well,
Yeah.
a couple years ago, it was
Yeah.
after COVID.
Long after COVID, I was on the council and that's been recently. And again, I get that market things change and they seem to change every time, not in our favor in terms of home ownership. That's all I'm saying is that that's a good track record. Our tree share, that's the concern.
Yeah, understood. And I do think it would be interesting to understand what those ratios of home ownership to rental is if you extracted the student bodies from, I imagine UVU and BYU. But I understand the concern. Really.
Well, I'm not sure why you would take those out. Because they're a fact. It's part of, and again, we need the rentals. We want the students. We want everyone to have a mix. The challenge is we're losing the mix. Where home ownership is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's the challenge. So love rentals, love renters. I was one for a long time. It's that we're losing the mix of that in our city. That's the concern.
Catrice. Thank you, Craig.
I'm curious with the Dendry, how rented out are you? What percentage is?
We're at what, 35%, I think 35 to 40%. And it's gone quite smooth.
Not fully built out yet.
Not fully built out.
So out of what is fully built out, what percentage is rented out?
Probably 60.
Okay.
67%. It's been slowing down over the holidays.
Right. I know the mix isn't fully rented out. They haven't been able to rent out all their stuff. I do wonder about the rental market. I've had multiple investors tell me that they've lost their shirts on some things. It's not the place to be right now. I don't want us to overbuild rental in Provo either. And we have all these other things lined up that are already entitled or that we're expecting to entitle, like the mall stuff. But
If they're entitled and not moving forward, it's for economic reasons.
right, it is. It's for funding. Yeah.
So absolutely.
I'm curious what your opinion is of council action where we require a certain percentage of home ownership. What constraints or opportunities does that put on the developer?
Given the agreements that are in place with Walmart and given the long-term objectives for this property from ownership, it could possibly jeopardize the Walmart deal.
As a developer, independent of the Walmart deal, do you have an opinion about those kinds of requirements? I assume you've seen other cities doing similar things.
Again, we don't do for sale and have not had, have not had that any types of those requirements imposed on us in other cities.
The reason I'm asking is because I have talked to other developers, and it's given me some pause about the effectiveness of which I've shared this desire with the council to have, increased home ownership opportunities, but it's really a question of affordability that will increase home ownership more than just requiring home ownership. And I'm worried that we may end up with a market problem where we keep pricing people out and then, make it so that it's not actually economically feasible. It just feels to me like a total wicked problem we've got, because we want home ownership. In order to get home ownership, we need smaller units at a lower price point. If we require those, does that create longer term problems for those developments is, I guess, the open question in my mind.
Yeah,
if you're not in that market, then
I'm not in that market. There was some discussion earlier about projects over on the west side of town that are entitled that are not moving forward again. The only reason that would be is that it's not economic to do that right now. We are in a situation where we have a a willing landowner that's wanting to work to help develop this whole thing out. That we have a path to build this. You know, on the for sale side, we do not have as clear a path.
Brian, related to your Dentry product, the 60% that is built out and rented, do you have a feel for demographics? They're families moving in, young professionals, expanded student campus?
All of those, and I'm
All
gonna
of
be
the
very
above.
careful given fair housing
I understand.
laws, but yeah, we have seen quite the mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you.
So should I read in the next item or did that include both?
We kind of went over both, but I suppose you.
Okay, let's
have
go
to
ahead
read that.
and read it in, and then we'll just see if there are any questions. An ordinance amending the zone map classification of real property generally located at 1870 South, 500 West from Freeway Commercial Three, FC3 zone to the low density residential in the Lakewood neighborhood. Any more questions or Aaron?
And I should clarify that the development agreement draft that you had in your packets is tied to this application, not the general plan.
Okay.
I've got.
Go ahead. Rachel.
Okay, so what we're looking at is doing a rezone to allow for this development agreement. And there's indication from the planning commission and from staff that it would be worthwhile to approve that because it's tied to getting the Walmart and we've got those benchmarks set into it. If we rezone this though, and they sold the property to someone else, how does that work with the development agreement with the Walmart? Have we have we lost leverage or have we changed the status of the property so somebody else could come in and build residential here?
So it looks like Brian's gonna respond to that.
No, the development agreement is binding on the successors.
Okay.
It runs with the land, and so any future owner would face the same restrictions. The development agreement specifically says that no permits can be issued until that they've broken ground on the Walmart. And there's even a provision, I don't actually remember the specific time frame on the details now, but there's provisions in there that if that doesn't happen within a certain time, you can unzone the property and remove the entitlements from it.
24 months.
Okay. So I know often we are hesitant to rezone something because we're worried about a different thing coming in. But we feel that this has enough protections built in with the development agreement that that kind of a rezone here would not create problems.
That, you know, I always hesitate to say that we have foreseen every possible outcome, but we spent quite a bit of time on this and we put a lot more protections into this one than our normal situation.
Yeah. All of those built on the trauma for the things that Catrice mentioned before.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. And thank you, Aaron. Appreciate your presentation. Thanks to all who have come to that. Next, we have a resolution adopting an updated water conservation plan. This will be presented by our Water Resources Director, Gary Calder. See here, see back here. Oh, okay.
It was actually Shane.
Oh, Shane, hello. Welcome, Shane. Yes, you're on.
Great. Thank you. Welcome. So this is a Provo Watershed Conservation Plan. The city is required by state law to adopt a water conservation plan on a regular basis every 5 years. And so that we're just coming back to the council to adopt an updated version of the Provo City's plan. Good news is that our water usage is dropping. it's diminishing. I'd like to point out in particular the last, oops. Oh, sorry. State preview, am I going the wrong way? No, I'm going the other way. Okay, the last number there, 179. This is a per capita day usage. So that's the amount of water on average that's used by an individual in Provo City on any given day. So the last number is 179 gallons per capita per day, and yeah, that could be. Oops, wrong.
Do we know what it looked like from 21 to 24 or 25?
Good question. Yes, we do. The trajectory is still, trend is down. That information will be added to the plan by your next meeting when you vote on the final plan. But this plan was actually done a year ago by Bowling Collins, and because of other issues that we were discussing, we just didn't have an opportunity to bring it to you until now. And so we just resurrected it and brought it back. But we'll have that information in there. The trend is down, though. We're still using less water year to year than we have in the past. Okay, so I told you to pay attention to the 179 number. These are the state regional conservation goals. You can see that by 2030, the state wanted us to reach the goal of 179 gallons per capita per day. In 2021, we'd reached that goal, and several years prior to that we were already well underneath that goal. I'd like to also point out that this is the lowest goal in the state, the lowest amount per capita of anywhere in the state. And so we're doing really well.
What was the percentage?
It's a 20% reduction from where we were in when the goals were established. It was, and 2015 is the baseline. Yeah, 10 years. So this is a little bit busier graph. First, the numbers represent 1, 2, 3, 4. Represent the different base years that we're looking at. 1 being the current 2015 usage, 2 being the 2030 goal, 3 the 2040, and 4 the 2065 goal. And then we have different scenarios. If the top line being if no conservation measures are taken, what the usage is expected to be with conservation measures, and then with going the extra mile to get that little bit of extra being the bottom line conservation goals. As you can see, as you move out in time, you get less and less reduction in usage just because you've already tapped into the low-hanging fruit and done the easy things, and the other things are a lot harder. Yeah.
How, just enlighten me, how come people are expected to use less and less water per person just out of the goodness of their heart? I mean, if we don't take any measures, right, they're going to use less and less. Is that because there's just in general a trend of being more conservation aware, or what?
We believe here in Provo that we've educated people well. They understand the need, and they've voluntarily taken measures to reduce.
So just in general, there's a mindset of like, try to use less water if you can.
Yes.
It's not necessarily anything regarding agriculture or any big macro factors or anything. This isn't a trick question. I'm genuinely just asking.
I don't know that you could say that. I mean, we've lost a third of the Great Salt Lake. A third, it's gone. look at the maps, this isn't like hype. It's like, you see it gets small. If it gets too small, it becomes ballistic. I mean, we're already seeing the dust and the wind from that. We've seen other lakes fail. Most large bodies in the world do fail. And so I think you also have just more awareness that, yeah, it makes sense to just be careful. So I think that's a factor as well.
Yeah, just generally, people are educated and informed, and there's a conservation mindset. Okay.
Yeah, that's the primary reason. The other reason is that we are densifying. And so there is less outdoor water use in high density projects. And Provo will continue to do that. And so you'll get more indoor demand, less outdoor demand. And that will be more people, less water use, and therefore the gallons per capita per use per day will go down naturally with densification. Okay, so this is just to illustrate again the goals in percentage and actual gallons per capita per day, regional conservation goals versus where Provo City's goals are. You notice in 2015, we're 186. The regional goal was 222 gallons per capita per day. 2026, 189, and we were at 178. 2030, 179, and we're projected, if we continue on the downward trend that we're on, to be at 172. And then hopefully 2040, 2065, we can just meet the goals, because those additional reductions in use will be harder to achieve going forward. So I just hope everybody can equate conservation with good water management. It's not necessarily just a reduction in use. It's managing our water well. So the goals that are included in our plan, water conservation plan, include things like we don't have to have a city that's a desert. We can plant plants and have foliage and trees that keep our city looking beautiful and still limit the amount of water that's being used. And a good example of this is our city center here. Sustainable landscaping, I think. A lot of mulch and drought tolerant grasses. Yeah, better picture. Well, I mean, okay.
I gotta hear you more.
Aquifer storage is another big element that's part of our water conservation plan. Again, putting water underground and storing it there limits evaporation.
So I'm a big fan of the aquifer storage. I've supported it all along. I'm not a big fan of the slide for one reason.
Okay.
And that is that maybe it relates to the Great Salt Lake a little bit. Our valley was never intended to have a dry Utah lake, and that would be a disaster. And the slide sort of implies that all that evaporation is wasted water. It contributes to our climate in a very significant way. So it's sort of ecologically misleading. I mean, I get what the slide is trying to communicate. And again, it's not because I don't support aquifer storage. I'm worried that that slide is very misleading, because it almost makes us say, gee, maybe we should just put all the water in the ground and not have a Utah lake. And that's, I know, not what you intend or anyone else, I hope, intends. That would be a disaster. I mean, there's just a little bit of misunderstanding, I think, sometimes when I talk to people about why a lake is important to the ecosystem, why it actually is valuable to have water that's evaporating. It's not wasted.
Right.
Anyway, just feedback on that slide.
And I think that's a good perspective, because quite frankly, I gotta be careful here. Leaking water pipes are a bad thing in most people's opinion, but in some ways it's also aquifer storage, so you can look at things a number of different ways.
Yeah, we've actually seen that with canals and everything, right? Like you mine a canal, then you lose all of those wetlands and the cottonwoods that had grown up along the canals. So you have more control over the wet water that you own rights to, but you lose those kind of creeping benefits from the leaky system.
Yes. So your point's well taken. This isn't a dig against Great Salt Lake. It's just that our focus has been on surface water storage for so long. Whenever there's a drought, everybody's focusing on how low the reservoirs are. And there just needs to be more attention put on our aquifers. And I think there is.
Utah Lake's not a reservoir, that's the point.
True. It's
Right.
the natural
I do think you're right. I think, you know, we made the mistake over the past century of assuming that we could fill big bathtubs full of water, and that was a wise idea in terms of water conservation. But Utah Lake should not be evaporating, that's all. Anyway.
A quick question. So I know that we recharge our aquifers. Can every city do that? I mean, is everyone sitting on aquifers? They could be doing the same thing, or we just have a unique geographical location.
Everybody's interested in doing that. There's a North Utah County Aquifer Council. All the cities in the North Utah County are working to recharge their aquifers.
Cool.
They're in the same situation that we are. Everybody's recognizing that our aquifers are in trouble.
Or just the cool ones that went first.
Another strategy that we're implementing is SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition, naturally just automating all of our control of our water system. So we know where the water is and how the water system is performing at any given time. Our automatic advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, is also a good water conservation tool. We know who's using water. Our residents can see how much water they've used on an hourly basis over the last 2 years. And we've made this information available to numerous people on a regular basis and help them locate leaks. Well, yeah.
And
But more
glad
importantly,
that
giving the residents.
I've gotten one of those notices that I had something leaking.
Yeah, it's helpful.
And I had to figure it out, but it was helpful. I don't think it used a ton of water, but it was consistent drips over time, right? Which adds up.
Right.
I mean, I didn't want to intentionally just waste water, right? So it was nice to get that.
Public education awareness, I think this is one of our biggest strategies. Again, like I mentioned, just making people aware of what we're doing rather than mandating even odd days of watering or limiting their water use, just making them aware of the need and letting them responsibly respond, I think has been great. Our citizens, residents of Provo have answered that call and voluntarily reduce their water usage. This is just an example of our consumer confidence report that we send out annually. It's a requirement, but we also include water conservation recommendations in this mailing. Hopefully you've all seen that. Water efficiency programs, have to announce that we've been quite successful in our turf trade program. 970 bags of seed that we sold at a reduced cost to participating residents. And these smart controllers that help detect the weather and irrigate appropriately based on the weather. And then, of course, our tree giveaway that helps to reduce the highland effect in the city and keep evaporation to a minimum. It's another important program.
So what kind of seed is being sold? The households are trading out their turf for
another drought tolerant mix that just requires less water.
I see.
Yeah, and I've got neighbors who've been getting it and they're oversowing it on their existing lawn. And then as they water less, that seed outcompetes the thirstier grass. And so over a couple of years, they are able to replace it without stripping off the lawn and redoing it all at once. So it's a nice transition.
Great idea. I'm amazed at how well people respond. Good strategies they came up with on their own. And there are other programs also, like giving them high efficiency sprinkler nozzles and park strip conversion that we offer. That's the highlights of the conservation plan. Any questions or comments?
I had one more comment or question on page 13. On I thought it was I would love to hear more about this. So it said as can be seen in the tables, the city's reliable supplies dropped below projected demand before 2025, although water use reduction efforts have allowed the city to delay additional supplies. Expected elimination of the, I've forgotten what that act on, DACRWTP water and the reduction of groundwater yields will require additional supply by 2025 and underscore the need for a more comprehensive water conservation strategy rather than just reduction of water use. Anyway, that caught my attention. It sounds like things are great, but we shouldn't rest on our laurels. We have to
Absolutely.
keep the water conservation going and we have to find more sources.
That's correct. And again, water, rather than relying solely on a reduction in demand, we need to implement good water management strategies.
Right.
Like aquifer storage.
So that's not suggesting additional water production in addition to the aquifer storage, or is that just alluding to that?
It's more alluding to the aquifer
Okay.
storage.
So we have, as I understand it, we have some springs, including Bunnell's Fork, right, that we're not fully using yet. So we do have other water production sources that are underutilized in a good way that could be helpful farther down the line, or am I?
Some. So our long-term outlook is to reuse water. That's another reliable source that most cities in Utah are looking to. There are not any other immediate, I mean, we'll be drilling more wells, which will be like Bunnell's Fork, another source of water, but there's not necessarily the paper water right to back up those new sources. We're using an existing water right. We just have a new access point,
Yeah.
right?
Thank you. I thought it was
And our water treatment plant, I guess, is another element in allowing us to tap into our Provo River water rights. So we have the rights there, but we weren't fully utilizing them. Now our water treatment plant will allow us to fully utilize those rights. So it's a balance between rights and infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
But drilling new wells is still zero sum, right? Because we're just lowering the aquifer.
That's correct. That's why the long-term plan is to fill the aquifer, and then once it's full, we'll still need more wells to meet peak demand in the summertime.
So the additional wells simply help us with demand, not
Yes.
necessarily overall, but like when you really need it in the summer.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's a time issue.
I have a question about table 10 of the plan with the implementation schedule, estimated cost and partnerships. Some of these things have already passed but have not yet been done.
Okay.
So, like a demonstration garden, it said the timeline was for 2025, unless you're getting it done in 2 weeks, like that's definitely not happening. But I just was wondering what the status is of these new conservation practices that are listed in the table. Have we made those partnerships or allocated funds or any of those things?
They've always been on our horizon. But you're correct. There are a few of those strategies that we don't have a defined plan yet to achieve. We've had to step back and focus on other issues.
Okay.
So
like the drought and water storage contingency plan, where are we at on that?
I think that's been completed.
Okay, and the watershed protection plan?
That's still that's something we're working on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot bigger effort involved in looking into the watershed all the way up on the UNS and how we can manage that.
Well, and it makes sense that the timeline's a little bit off, because if this was prepared a year ago, but then we got stuck on something for a year, then it would delay these things as well. So I was just curious what the new anticipated timeline would be.
Yes, we'll do our best to update that by your next meeting. So,
Thank
obviously.
you. And also bring in the table. The
Oh, yeah,
Bring in the table.
sorry.
Yeah.
We planned on doing that.
Do your David Decker lecture presentation.
Okay.
No, they have a very cool thing. It's very, very cool.
Thanks,
It's so cool.
thanks for the invitation.
have to see it too.
Yeah, you'll have to see it.
If you know, you know.
You're just going to have to come back next year just to see
Just
it.
to watch it.
Barry, will you be here for that?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, let him bring the table in and that's it.
I got a big pipe I can give you as a going away gift.
To answer your question, I don't know when it's gonna happen. I don't know when it's gonna happen, excuse me, here in Calder Water Resources. I think I will be here for the next one meeting.
I'm very sad to see you leave.
It's what we're talking about, we have created Shane's been a big part of that. It's a model to basically explain what you can see what the aquifer is, where our wells are, how we recharge in a 3D dimension model with using lights. It's really it's made for us to show the public, take to schools. We even demonstrated it to Central Utah Water in several of our meetings. So our big water users too. They thought it was pretty cool as well.
Nice. Any other questions for Shane? Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Your presentation. We'll now take a break. We'll reconvene at 3:35.
Recording stop. Recording in progress.
All right, we'll reconvene our council and move to the next item, which is a discussion regarding the council handbook. This will be presented by our executive director, Justin Harrison.
Righty. Good afternoon, council. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll go through this fairly quickly. A few weeks ago, had sent out an email to the council with a draft red line of updates for the council handbook. The council handbook states that the intent is for the council to review and revise the contents as needed, or at least every 2 years. The last comprehensive update that was done as far as a review was done in 2023. So we thought no better time than now, December of 2025. And so council staff have been working internally to prepare those proposed updates. There are no changes in this draft from the changes that were sent to you a few weeks ago, and there wasn't any feedback that we received, but thought we'd take the time to go through that if you'd like to. Here's a summary of the changes. We do have the 85 or so page document if you want to run through, but as I mentioned, the last comprehensive change was made in December of 2023. A majority of the changes are quite small. One of them being just a standardization of terms. Utah State Code was referenced a number of different ways grammatically. That just kind of bothered me. So little OCD. They are all now standardized to reference UCA and then the code reference. A few of the appendices are also either updated or will be updated. The handbook states that appendices can be updated by staff without approval of the council, but there are a number in there that will be updated at the beginning of January when changes are made to the council. I promise, Councilor Hanley, your name is crossed out, but it doesn't mean anything. We still love you. And that will be replaced by Councilor-elect Jeff Whitlock. Man, I'm having a day already. As well as the assignments to boards and commissions as those decisions are made. So some of those are pending, but will be updated by staff as soon as those are updated by the council. The other changes included just some revisions to council powers and responsibilities. In reviewing state code, there was just one bullet point that was not included in the handbook that was included in state code of things that the council cannot do, which includes holding employment by the city while also serving as an elected official. So I think everyone was fairly aware of that, and we don't have any issues with that, but just wanted to clarify that. Other updates include there was an old provision there regarding requests for information, as well as an older version of appointment procedures and how those procedures or just what the updated and current use case for procedures are done for appointments by the mayor's office. So we updated that just to make sure it was current. And then had mentioned updates to boards and committees and commissions are forthcoming. And then one update to meeting rules and procedures. This actually just had to do with how the council interacts with the council office in submitting issue requests. So there was an kind of an antiquated procedure in here about writing a memo and sending it to council leadership and council staff, and we just updated it to follow the procedures that we've been using for the last number of years and using the issue tracker that gets submitted online, or that when something's communicated to council staff, we input that. So again, happy to run through the handbook, but I will ask if there are any questions and see if you'd like to go through everything or anything specific. We can jump to a page.
Read it off.
I can read it all and put you right to sleep, I promise.
Sounds soothing.
Any questions, or would you like me to run through any of these?
No. I appreciate the changes to the UCA instead of Utah Code or Utah Code and UCA, all three in one document. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're good, Justin. Thank you very much for your
problem.
It comes up.
I was gonna say, if Rachel's good, I think we're all good.
Yeah. All right. So we'll continue with our slightly ahead of schedule format here since Daniel is here, and we'll move to our next item, which is a proposal to appropriate $234,611 from the general fund to pay for adjustments to select sworn public safety positions in police and fire. Daniel Softly, Human Resources Director. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Yes, I am requesting an appropriation to make some mid-year adjustments for sworn police officer and sworn firefighter positions. As just kind of as a preamble, our market for sworn public safety positions continues to be very competitive, although I'm happy to report maybe slowing a little bit. But some agencies have delayed adjustments until most agencies do their compensation adjustments on a fiscal year, which is July. But some agencies have taken, because of the market is so competitive, to delaying adjustments to see what others are doing so that then they can make their adjustments. We have then started to look mid-year to see what those adjustments have done and to see if we are in a bad spot for the next fiscal year. So that's really why I'm here. Is HR recently conducted a market review to account for these changes to see what has happened since July. It takes a little while to everyone to report their data and get it in, which is why, you know, there's a delay. Just as a reference, when I talk about the market, when I go out, I'm looking at 32 other police agencies in Utah and 22 other fire agencies in Utah. Now, our target is to maintain a grade that has a range max within 5% of the market median. So when I come up here, I'm not asking to put us well above the market. We are trying to maintain a median, which we believe is a competitive spot. Interestingly enough, there is not a ton of discrepancy between the top and the bottom of those 22 and 32 agencies respectively. So that's why we feel like being at the market median is a very competitive spot.
Daniel,
Yeah.
are you suggesting that everyone's kind of in that same band?
They are, I would say, like if you were to rank us right now out of the 32 agencies, we would be lower than as far as a rank position, but still only about 5% off the median. So you're talking maybe a 10% spread between those two overall is what I'm saying. Because we're all surveying each other. Yeah. And so we're all trying to be kind of competitive with each other. At the time when we did our adjustment, we did a couple of adjustments to the starting pay for police officers in July. That was part of our budget. That market position, that's one of the market positions we look at is starting pay. That is still within market. We're within 1% of the median. And so I'm not making a recommendation for adjustments at that level. When we surveyed range maximums in July, our police officer positions were just a little bit below -3, which is where we are starting to look at perhaps making an adjustment. We waited and to see what other agencies have done, and those have dropped to in our key positions like -5 and -6. And so that's what's bringing me in front of you today. The proposed police changes are a 1 grade adjustment to the ranks of senior officer, master officer, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. This is affecting the grade or the range maximums of our more senior sworn positions. So those are all officers who have at least 5 years in the field. That's 120,000 of the request. As far as where we are in fire, our fire positions are essentially where our police positions were in July. Our starting pay for our EMT and our paramedic are right around the -5 mark, and the range maximum for the other ones are around -3. Now, a couple things to note is that particularly in fire, though that market adjustment will change again in January because there's a handful of special fire districts that they make their adjustments in January. So that's that little off cycle of 6 months means, we kind of have to kind of keep a good eye on that particular market. The recommendation is then a 1 adjustment for all ranks from EMT to battalion chief. The market data supports that, and then maintaining equity with police is one of our objectives when possible. If the market were to separate them, then we'd be more than comfortable leaving one go ahead of the other. And we've done that in the past, but where the market is relatively close and maybe off by a percentage or two, we always try to maintain that equity. So their adjustments would account for about 114,000 of this. So a fairly even split with what of how we're costing this out. The last adjustment, just as a reference point that we made to police and fire grades, was in 2021. Incidentally, that was a mid-year adjustment as well. We did that in December of 2021. We have done some mid-year adjustments for other positions in the city. They don't require an appropriation though, because police and fire are the only agencies where we have over 100 incumbents in those ranks. Those numbers add up even with smaller adjustments. One of the goals that we're looking for, obviously, is the reason why I particularly feel it's important to do it sooner than later is we're always trying to manage our turnover. Just to give you kind of a sense of where our turnover is at. In police in particularly, our voluntary turnover in 2025 right now is at 6.4%. We lost 5 police officers to other agencies in state. 3 we lost out of state, 1 to another law enforcement, another person got out of law enforcement, and another went back to school. But that's our voluntary turnover. There are some factors surrounding that turnover, so I don't find that particularly alarming, but it's still a real number. So I want to account for it and make sure you're aware of what it is. Relative, so that's 5 this year to other agencies. In 2024, we lost 2. So, total turnover in fire, year to date is 6.2%, but the vast majority of that is retirements, this time. So we had one individual who, left the area. So
What about 2021, Daniel? Do you remember back that far?
back in 2021,
Yeah,
when we
what was
made
our
the
turnover?
adjustments, I don't remember the turnover. Our turnover, as far as leaving to other agencies, has always been relatively low.
Okay.
The adjustments we made in 2021, I felt like we were in that's when the market adjustments for police, coming out of COVID, coming out of some other political things that were happening at that particular time, really drove those salaries. And that one was done because that was significantly more drastic adjustments. I think the adjustments for police at that time were like 750,000 just by themselves. So those were around 10 to 12% increases across the board. This is nowhere like that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Becky.
yeah.
So our officers, they're leaving, we have like 5 leave to other places within Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because of pay or was that because the work? Cause I know that we have a lot of demands on our officers here that they don't have in other municipalities. So was that because our demands are so high or was that because the pay was greater or a combination of both? Did they, on their exit interviews, did they give us any indication of that?
It's a great question. I'm not super alarmed by the officers that have left for another agency. 3 of them have gone to one particular agency that they are being recruited for directly by someone who left years ago. And so they are actually being targeted so that they can kind of get back with their particular unit and friends and loyalty to each other, which is great. So 3 of the 5 are from that. One of the other individuals left, went up to Salt Lake County, and he cited that the type of work that they do up there, he wanted to do more of that type of a thing. The other person was relatively new, and I don't know in particular why he left. So
I appreciate that. Just so you guys know, all the time that I was on the Citizen Advisory Board, we do demand a lot out of our officers. And so one of the reasons they'd explain the high turnover was they could go to like Groverland and virtually anywhere else and do not the same intense work as they do here. But then again, here does give them, at least we're like a training facility where they flip through, but here does give them more opportunities to do more things because we have so much going on in the City of Provo.
So, any other questions?
Other questions for Daniel? Chief Hedman, anything you would like to add?
Unless you have some questions.
Questions for Chief Hedman? Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have presentation regarding the annual comprehensive financial report of the City of Provo for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025. Presented by, or introduced by Dan Follett, Administrative Services Director.
Thank you, Council Chair and Municipal Council. I'll spend just a few minutes going through several highlights and then turn the time over to Jeff Miles, who is the audit partner from HBME that audits our financial statements.
Okay.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
This is the mover.
Yes. If we could go to page 7.
Scott, was that the golf course?
It was.
That's a good picture.
You need to offer up your pictures more, Scott.
So I'll start just on page 7, just mention that state law and local ordinance require that all general purpose local governments publish within 6 months of the close of each fiscal year a complete set of financial statements presented in conformity with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles and audited in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards by a firm of licensed certified public accountants. And the council has selected HBME as that firm. If we turn to page 9, near the bottom, the city's total tax revenue of $62.7 million increased $298,000 or 0.5%. Sales tax revenue of $28.1 million increased $532,000 or 1.9% over the prior fiscal year. And for the first 2 months of the current fiscal year, and it's actually 3 months now, our sales tax revenues have been up compared to the prior year for the same month. If we turn the page to page 10, the governmental fund revenues for the fiscal year ending June 30th are $123.9 million, and tax revenue made up 51% of that. In terms of major initiatives, I'll just mention 4 of them and then highlight the rest where they're at. Provo City celebrated the grand opening of its 100-acre Epic Sports Park on Saturday, September 21st, 2024. The construction of a new fire station adjacent to the City Hall was completed in December of 2024. Construction of the initial phase of the new wastewater treatment plant was completed in April of 2025, and then construction of a new 30 million gallon per day water treatment plant is currently underway. The next 7 pages of the transmittal letter include accomplishments for every department and every division throughout the city. I will not read all of those to you right now, but I would encourage everyone to read through those because they're significant in terms of the accomplishments that took place during the fiscal year into June 30th, 2025. Finally, I'll mention from the transmittal letter a couple of items. The Government Finance Officers Association, I'm on page 17, of the United States and Canada awarded a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting to Provo City Corporation for its annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. The certificate of achievement is a prestigious national award and recognizes conformance with the highest standards of preparation of state and local government financial reports. We're very proud of that accomplishment. Later this month, we plan to submit these audited financial statements for the same review and recognition next year. And finally, I'd just like to highlight all of the work and dedication that went into this document. You may notice that it's roughly 150 pages and has a significant amount of information in it. And I'd just like to recognize Kelsey Zarbach, Andrea Wright, and Anissa Orwin for all of their work and effort that went into this. Just a couple of more items. On page 24 of the management discussion and analysis, the city's net position increased by $106 million. The governmental portion of that increased 9.7 million, and the business type net position increased 96 million. And those are both positive increases, which are generally viewed as positive overall. The general fund reported an increase of $2 million in fund balance. And at the end of the current year, assigned and unassigned fund balance for the general fund was just over $31 million, or approximately 32%. And if you remember, the upper end of the range is 35%. And from a goal perspective, we like to stay as close as we can to the upper end of the range. And that maintained at or stayed level at 32% on a year-over-year basis. And then if we can look at page 28, there are a couple of graphs on that page. I know it's hard to read at a distance. The first one is just revenues by source for governmental activities. And you can see there for governmental activities, sales tax revenue is our largest source of revenue at 21.75%, followed by operating grants at 16.84%, charges for services at 16.22%, and property tax at 15.20%. You can also see from the graph that we have a well-diversified source of revenue. If we scroll down just a little bit, we look at expenses and revenues from governmental activities. You can see there that the net cost of services provided by governmental activities totaled $73.7 million. Public safety, which includes fire and police, were 41.8 million of that. So the vast majority relates to public safety. And then just a little bit on the next page, there's one more graph that shows what revenue sources are for business type activities. And as you would expect, the largest portion is charges for services. So these are primarily charges for utility services, power, water, wastewater, sanitation, et cetera. So I'd like to turn the time over to Jeff Miles now, who again is our audit partner from HBME, and let him highlight a little bit and talk about the opinion that the firm has issued on the financial statements. Yep.
Thank you. It's good to be back with Provo City Council. As Dan said, we have a 150-page document, and of this document, I own 3 of the pages for the independent auditor's report. And you'll find our report on page 21. We are issuing a clean opinion on the financial statements. In accounting auditing language, we refer to that as an unmodified opinion. I'll just read the second paragraph. Says, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of Provo City Corporation as of June 30th, 2025, and the respective changes in financial position, and where applicable, cash flows thereof, and the respective budgetary comparison for the general fund for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. The rest of the report talks about our basis for our opinion, responsibilities of management, our responsibilities as auditors, and also kind of has some clarification on required supplementary information as well as supplementary information that is recommended we present as part of a governmental audit. As far as the audit, we met with the audit committee yesterday morning to discuss the results of the audit, had a good discussion with them, and it felt that the finance team at Provo City was very timely in getting the information to facilitate an audit. The one thing we're still waiting to wrap up is the federal single audit. In a typical year, we'll audit 1 or 2 federal programs, but the city during fiscal year 25 had large grants from several different programs. So this year we have to audit 5 programs. So that is taking us a little more time to wrap up the single audit this year. But once we issue this report, which will happen this week, it kind of starts a clock for us that we have 30 days to wrap up the single audit. So we expect that to be done by the middle of January. Well, I think the important items, every governmental audits required us to understand the internal controls of the city and make sure that those are functioning properly. And we didn't identify any deficiencies in internal control. I feel like the city does a great job of handling the funds and being able to facilitate financial reporting so that the information that they're providing to council each month is information that you can rely on. And is properly reported to you, because that's ultimately, a decision-making tool of the city is, the financial status of the city. And then lastly, we do look at state compliance. State auditor's office has a list of things that they have us look at each year, but we didn't identify any non-compliance. So we're clean with the financial report, the compliance reports, internal controls, and then hopefully nothing with single audit. I was telling the audit committee, I don't think I would present to council again the single audit unless there are findings, but we'll know that in the next couple of weeks. We're not anticipating any. They're all programs that have been audited previously. So I feel like the city has good controls over the use of federal funds. But with that, I'd maybe ask if council or mayor has any questions about the audit report.
Questions for John?
I just want to verify. So we're not running a deficit. We're not headed in a horrible direction of financial mismanagement or disaster or.
As of June 30th, no. Yeah, as of June 30th, you're not. You're not running into deficit. I think a couple things that we do look at with the state compliance is we have to ensure that none of the funds have a deficit fund balance. And the only one that, and it doesn't even have a deficit fund balance, it has a deficit unrestricted fund balance, which is the golf course. But the city has budget each year to try and help remediate that over time. Then additionally, we look at budget to actual to ensure that there was no spending in excess of what had been appropriated by the council, and there was no budget overages during the year. And I think, and Dan pointed out, looking at the unassigned fund balance of the general fund, because that's really the money that is not been already allocated to something else at the city. And so to keep that as close to the 35% buffer in case there was a significant drop in revenue for whatever reason, you do kind of have a, 35% of revenues, that represents like a third of a fiscal year. So that if you lost a third of your revenue in the general fund, what we're saying, we have enough funds in reserve to cover that. So.
And how do our reserves compare to other cities?
Most cities try to stay close to the 35%, and a lot of cities with all the ARPA money that flowed in from 2021 to 2023 actually had a hard time staying below the 35% limit. But now we're finally seeing all that, the federal money flow through, and so the 35% we're seeing cities kind of drop down more into the 20 to 25% range, but a lot of them do try to manage it and keep it higher. But the state of Utah, I think, is a little unique. There's still a lot of capital projects going on. Every city we're at, there's still large capital projects that money has been set aside for, and it's kind of been delayed because there isn't capacity to kind of handle all these large scale projects that are going on. So I mean, you look at the general fund, but you also have a capital projects fund that has a hefty, not necessarily, it's like we call it assigned, like, hey, there's projects that we've earmarked for this, but if for whatever reason those projects fall apart or the general fund runs into a problem, you kind of have this, I'd kind of call it a buffer. It's like, yeah, we're planning on spending this on capital projects, but worst case scenario, you have the ability to swing that back over to the general fund if needed. I guess I'd also point out the proprietary funds of the city. I think the city's done a good job of managing those and having rates. You don't want your energy, water, all those funds accumulating huge balances. The purpose of a city having proprietary funds is to provide affordable services to the citizens, but not necessarily generate this huge profit that we're then throwing back over to the general fund. And there's kind of a game some cities will play with proprietary funds versus tax burden on citizens, because they'll say, well, we want to say we're a no tax city, so we'll charge higher rates over here to supplement the general fund. But I don't, the city doesn't really do that as much as other cities do.
Thank you.
Becky?
So our financial outcome is it's pretty good, right?
I'm not here to give an opinion on the financial. I'm here to give that they're stated correctly, but I would argue that Provo City has a strong financial position right now. Yes.
Okay, so it's not like we're gonna go bankrupt in 10 years.
No.
Asked another way.
Yeah, and if you really want to fall asleep easily at night, you can go through this whole document. Yeah. And at the back of it, we have statistical sections that talk about debt service. There's discussion on like, hey, here's how much of our revenue we've earmarked for future debt service, because we have sales tax bonds, and we have certain bonds that have been issued that are earmarked to revenue of the city. We also have general obligation bond, which is a little more related to property tax revenue, but there's a calculation back there that says, hey, our city could have up to, I don't even know what the number is, Dan could probably look it up for me right now, but the city could have a debt of, I think it's probably 500. It's a huge number. What you're technically would be allowed to have is your debt level at a city. But I think Provo only uses 5% of the total allowed debt that you could have as a city, right? So I think that's showing that the city does a good job of minimizing the amount of debt that we need, but also realizing you do have projects that require debt. There's a benefit to leveraging debt versus using current resources to pay for projects. So there's kind of a fine balance there between utilizing debt versus utilizing fund balance to fund projects. And maybe Dan, what page is that on? They could pull it up here for us.
Page 139. And again, this just relates to general obligation debt.
Yes.
Ours is very low.
This is kind of like presenting in work sessions too. I feel like council members are more willing to ask questions in a work session than maybe in a general session. So we do have, this is like a scheduled pledge revenue versus
130.
how much debt, but this is helpful too. So like the sales tax revenue for fiscal year 25, we collected $28 million, but we've only earmarked, $3.7 million of that towards servicing debt. So you do have like debt capacity. And then what page was that on?
This one here.
So yeah, the debt limit that the city could have, this is in thousands of dollars, right? You could have $711 million of debt is the legal limit that the city has. But at the end of the year, for the legal debt funds staff, we're only utilizing 10% of it.
In other words, we could borrow another $637 million in GO debt right now.
Yeah.
I'll say that one more time so people online can hear. In other words, we could borrow another $637 million of general obligation debt. We currently have $74 million outstanding. But again, that we're very low on what the allowable is, and that's good.
Yes.
Do you have a sense of how that compares to other cities? I mean, are we high, low, median?
Well, on a nationwide basis, I think we would be low on a nationwide basis, particularly in some areas of the country. In Utah, I think for cities that issue general obligation debt, not all cities do. Often very small cities don't issue any general obligation debt. But I don't have an exact feel for it.
Yeah, I don't know if I could give you a range, but because to Dan's point, the number of cities that are larger than Provo and Utah is not a lot, maybe a handful. And so I'd say you're in the range of comparable cities for what your general obligations are.
So we're pretty conservative, right? I got it
Yes.
on and say we're pretty conservative.
Yeah, another way to look at it is if you look at the property tax burden, when we do the comparisons to other cities in terms of what our property tax burden is, we're in the middle or the lower portion in most cases when we look at the property tax burden. So, and that's where the revenues come from to repay this particular debt, general obligation debt. We have two outstanding general obligation bonds right now. One is on the rec center and the other is on the city facilities bond, which covered this building and a fire station.
Thank you.
Other questions for Jeff? Or Dan? Rachel?
That's another way to ask it. Go ahead.
So we were regularly in the past getting updates on the sales taxes, what was coming in and what the forecasts were. Because for a time, our rosy outlook, we got a reality check. So we were revising those down and then getting updates for the real numbers as they came in. It looks like, our sales tax numbers are coming back up again, but I'm wondering if we can start getting those updates again.
Yeah, I'll address that. Justin reached out to me and asked for that information. We have provided the first 2 months of the fiscal year that we've received to Justin. We've just received the third month of the fiscal year. All three of those months are ahead of in the range of about 17% better on a year-over-year basis. The one thing that I would caution everyone in looking at those numbers, I think it's better to look at kind of where we're at on a year-to-date basis than month to month, because one of the things that we've learned from reaching out to the state tax commission is that there tends to be variance on a month-to-month basis in terms of how and when they do cutoff, what filers are actually included each month, what filers actually filed before the 20th of the month when they did the cutoff, or after the 20th of the month. And so there's some noise in the numbers on a month-to-month basis. And we've had some concerns over that and drawing, not realistic and conclusions from those numbers. That's the only thing I would caution you on, but we will provide those on a monthly basis going forward.
Other questions? Well, thank you, Jeff. I think it goes without saying you don't achieve the recognition as best managed city in the nation 3 consecutive years without good fiscal management. So 100%. Thanks to our administration and staff as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. If there is no objection, we'll adjourn the municipal council meeting and reconvene the RDA governing board by unanimous consent.
Welcome back to the RDA governing board, my friends. The RDA governing board will consider a motion to close the meeting. This will be presented by Brian Jones, our attorney.
Daredevil. We do have an item to present to the board in the closed session about both character and competence and litigation items. So we'll be looking for the motion.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to close the meeting?
A motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Christensen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Handley. Okay, we will do our roll call vote. Board member Bogdan.
Yes.
Hoban.
Yes.
Whipple is a yes. Garrett.
Yes.
McKay.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
And Handley.
Yes.
Okay. The motion to close the meeting has passed by a vote of 7-0. So we will now scoot our little selves over into the pre-function room so that we can do this meeting.
Recording stopped.